with that, our next speaker is Chris Burns. And Chris, if you will, hang on, let me pull up everyone. Chris, how you doing? Do you need me to make you a co-host?
Yes, please.
Please, he says. So we will make Chris a co-host. And there you go, Chris, because I know he usually does a presentation. And with that, I give you Mr. Chris Burns. Chris, take it away. Love the hat.
Thanks. Casual Friday at home. Casual Friday. Well, it's nice to see all you wonderful people. I think that wonderful presentation by Cedric there will be a good complement to what I'm doing, or vice versa. Certainly, communication and what we'll talk about are very important in business and in life and relationships. So if you've tuned into these before, you've probably remembered some of the stuff that I've talked about. I've talked about my busy to results, kind of helping leaders and professionals crystallize a clear vision of what they want to achieve. And that's what I'm going to talk about right now. Can you see my screen? Oh, well, I did not share it then. Okay. I assume you can see it now.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to teach you how to use your vision to get out of the hamster wheel, avoid burnout, and to maximize productivity. That's really the goal of my talk today. So a little bit about me. I've been in business for about 20 years, been an entrepreneur for a very long time. I've been around marketing most of my life. And over the last 5 years or so, I've kind of evolved into sales and leadership. And I grew up in a business too. So I feel like almost the vast majority of my lifetime I've spent in and around small business. And I can say with great pleasure that I've helped hundreds of businesses, and I've been able to see what truly works and what really doesn't. And that's something I'm very proud of. I've been an adjunct marketing professor. I've owned several businesses, and I've recently sold a couple. So if you're going to follow along and any of this sounds interesting, I'd really encourage you to scan the QR code to download this free tool. We call it the 2020 Vision Guide. It's a guide and a tool that we charge a lot of money to corporations to bring us in to teach them how to do. And this is kind of a snapshot of what part of it will look like. But we're going to go through, we're going to help you identify your why, your business goals, personal goals, because ultimately business and personally, what you want to achieve in life is connected, whether we like it or not. And so our home life relates to our business life and vice versa. So we're going to want to establish some personal goals, some professional goals, and I'm going to really show you how to get there. But first, let's talk about this. And this is a feeling or a position that I think so many of us have been in. I know I have multiple times in my life. I didn't even know I was in the wheel until you kind of look at the end of the year, like Marianne mentioned earlier. At the end of the year, you zoom out and you're like, oh man, I'm kind of no further than where I started. Or you do that over and over for a few years and you realize, geez, my age is catching up with me. I don't have the runway I thought I did when I was in my 20s. So I usually ask the question, but since we're on a video call today, if you've ever felt like this, keep listening, keep watching, because I'm going to try to give you as much value here as possible. And I encourage you to scan that QR code to download the vision guide, because this will be a really key to hopefully you having a tremendous 2025. But if you're stuck in the hamster wheel, this is what's going to happen. And it happened to me, and I had a massive health scare years ago. And I didn't know I was burned out, but my body shut down and ended up developing cancer. And that's what I attributed to. I was not happy mentally. I was doing too much. I was staying up late, grinding, hustling, as they say, but not the right way. And what if I told you that you could avoid this? That given your 30 hours a week or 40 or whatever it is you have allotted, that you can maximize your time, that you can crush your goals without having to work more. In fact, in some cases, you could do it with working less. A lot of people don't believe that, but it's wholeheartedly true. But before we go there, let's talk about why so many entrepreneurs end up in that hamster wheel, why they fail, why they come up short, or they quit before they finally get that big break. And that's just it. Success takes a long time, but success requires strategy, requires a plan. And only then, over consistency and time, can you get to that level of success. But it's of my opinion that most entrepreneurs end up in this kind of cul-de-sac to a dead end because they don't have a strategy. They just don't have a game plan of any sort. And that takes me to this, is that, whether we're a head coach or an assistant coach of a basketball team, a hockey team, a football team, insert whatever it is that you like to teach or coach, if you show up without a game plan, you should expect to lose most of your games. And if you lose most of your games, you should expect to get fired. But unfortunately, a lot of us show up to our business every day. We just kind of chase our tail. We have motion, but we don't really have progress. And that's because we don't have a strategy. We don't have that North Star guiding us every single day to tell us what to do or where we're even going. And that's really what this is all about. So again, check the QR code, download the document, 100% free. And even if you self-implement here, I think you're going to have a lot of success with this. And this is what I was mentioning before. It's motion versus progress, or motion versus action. Most of us don't really stop to think about this, but you've got busy entrepreneurs like LS, Marianne, myself, Nikki. We've got a lot going on. There's no doubt. And there are some days where even the best of us have motion. We're just chasing our tail. Just because we're doing stuff doesn't mean it's strategic. Doesn't mean it's moving the needle. Doesn't mean it's revenue generating or it's goal oriented. It just means we're doing busy work. And a lot of times that is picking the low hanging fruit, the things that are not making the biggest impact, the things that are making the least amount of impact. Progress is the opposite. It's strategic. It's biting off the biggest part and saying, you know what, I'm going to tackle this first. I'm going to tackle the most daunting task, get that done right away. But you'd have to be strategic to know what tasks to tackle first, right? Kind of getting back to the old 80-20 rule. You'd have to have a plan. You'd have to have a vision to know, what should I be doing tomorrow that's going to help me get to my revenue goal at the end of the year? So let's talk about behaviors, and we'll get to some of that later on. I typically ask this question when I speak on stage or I speak at events, is how many people have a strategy? How many of you actually have a game plan? How many of you have a vision? And it is shocking how many people don't. So I speak at a local summit, and whenever I speak on stage, I ask this question. And I'm not kidding when I'm met with less than 10%. And then I'll ask the follow-up question, which, keep your hand up if you have it in document format and you've actually looked at it or leveraged it in the last 6 months. And of course, hands go down. We're left with maybe 5%. And it's just so critical because strategy and a plan is really the foundation for everything that we do, especially a vision. You can't have a strategy if you don't have a vision. So let's dive into this a little bit further. Most entrepreneurs don't have a vision. They don't have a game plan. They operate on this. This is their operating system. I call it the light switch theory. And they wake up tomorrow, they lose some employees. They say, oh, we gotta hire. Well, let's just run an ad. Well, ads aren't that effective. Posting on Facebook isn't all that effective. Or they realize tomorrow, well, our sales are down 25%. We need to do something about it. Well, you should always, if you have a team, you should always be looking to hire. You should always be looking to increase your sales. You should always be looking to build awareness or increase your email list. And so if you are, that's proactive. That's being strategic. But unfortunately, so many entrepreneurs are reactive. They think, oh, we'll just flip the switch and we'll fix that. Or we'll fix the switch, flip the switch, and we'll try to attempt to resolve this problem. But we can't be reactionary in leadership, in business, in sales. We can't leave our goals to chance, but that's what you're doing if you operate by the light switch theory. So if you want to be proactive, if you want to be strategic, what are the ways you can be successful? If you can actually be that thing? My crazy dog sneezing. Think about that just for a quick second. Well, number one, you could use a planner. Not just any planner, but hopefully a planner that aligns with your goals and aligns with you. We created a planner because we realized that the planners that were out there didn't really work with what we were trying to achieve. This isn't a plug to buy our planner, but this is one of the stepping stones to get to be strategic, to get to have a vision, because a planner can be your personalized strategy. It does prevent things from slipping through the cracks, which, again, if you have a higher follow through rate, that's good for business. That's good for you. You get more stuff done. It eliminates anxiety, and it keeps your goals and keeps your vision top of mind. It keeps them in front of you because, as I tell my wife, out of sight, out of mind, right? And the culmination of all these things means it's going to yield confidence. And if you have confidence and less anxiety, guess what? You're getting shit done. You're productive, you're successful, you're increasing your revenue. And that is just so important. So that planner will end up helping you stack daily victories to win the week, win the weeks, win the month, win the months, win the year. This is really has been a catalyst for us and a lot of our clients, just getting a planner. And again, doesn't have to be ours. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about a big light bulb moment for me. And one of them was the planner, no doubt. But the other one was I was diagnosed with cancer 7-8 years ago. I was sitting in a hospital bed by myself a lot because my wife was working, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. And so I had a lot of time to sit and think and reflect. As, of course, you expect the worst when you're diagnosed with something like that. And this ended up being something that really changed the way that I operate and do business. I didn't know it, and I wouldn't know it for a long time, but it's called the CTFAR model. I was sitting there and I was thinking, my circumstances are pretty bleak. I'm going to die. Doesn't matter what the doctor tells you, you're going to think the worst. And your circumstances trigger your thoughts. I was thinking very negatively. I was thinking down. It was hard to feel good because my thoughts were negative. And what were my actions going to be when I got out, if I got out? They weren't going to be very good. I was going to continue to eat Cheetos and ice cream every night and, not exercise and not sleep and, just grind until my body fell apart again. Well, my body needed rest. My body needed better food, needed more sleep, needed all those things. So I said, a buddy gave me a book, and that's where I learned about this. And I said, geez, here's my circumstance. I need to think better about this. I need to be optimistic because I've got little kids. I want to leave a legacy. I want to create a legacy for myself. No one more but me. That's what I want it for. I want people to remember me, and I want to have some memories. And so I need to think better. I need to feel better. So to think and feel better, I got to change my thoughts because I'm in 100% control of my mind. I'm in control, whether we want to believe that or not. And that started to change the way I feel. And I also realized if I took care of my body physically, exercise, food, sleep, less alcohol, other things that can help me feel better, it's going to lead to better actions. And it did. And that changed the result, which changed my circumstance. So this is a flywheel for how you can change your life. And people they don't see it this way. So they don't recognize that they can change. But if you see this and you understand it and you believe it, this is going to be your stepping stone to get out of whatever's in your way or whatever you think is in your way, because chances are nothing's really in your way. So the other day I was talking about this and I said to someone, what's your destination? Like, what do you want? And I was met with this answer. If you could see my face, they were just scanning the room. And if it was 20 seconds, it felt like 3 minutes. The person didn't know. I said, okay, well, you got a GPS in front of you. What's the address? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, if you don't have an address and you don't have a GPS, you're lucky if you have a compass. You don't even know what direction you're going. And that's a tough thing in business. It'd be great to have a compass, but there's a lot of us that don't even have that. And so we first have to crystallize, where do we want to go? Because then I can give you a destination. And then you can create a game plan for how to get there. Where am I going to stop and stay? Where am I going to eat? Is there anything I want to do along the way? I'm going to make a road trip around the country or across the country. I need a destination and I need a plan because I can't just willy-nilly drive across the country. I need to know if I have the money, my car is ready. I need to know how long it's going to take. Is there something along the way I want to do? So we need to crystallize that. We need a crystal clear vision. And this is, in my opinion, again, one of the number one reasons why most people don't achieve their goals. And they end up quitting or getting burnt out or stuck in that hamster wheel. So we have to have clarity of vision. It's just so important. So here again, we're going to talk about the vision guide, which you can download if you check that QR code. I want to know about your personal why. So a vision is just more than you telling me that statement that's on your website, because that's not your personal vision. That's not a vision guide. It is more than your goals. It is more than personal growth. Like, I want to read X number of books this year. I want to go on a cruise. So much more than that. And so if you haven't already, download that. We're going to talk about it right now. So number one, you fill this out, and I want to know your why. And there's no right or wrong answer, but I can tell you mine, and my business partner and I have a pretty similar one here. And we talk a lot about our legacy. That number one, and in no particular order, we want to be involved in our local community. We want to give back, be philanthropical, whether that means donating time or money, and also be active in the community, not just someone who gives. I want to leave a legacy for my children. I want them to remember their dad as someone who was a loving father, a loving husband, a good friend, philanthropic, also a good business person. So there's a lot of personal things with that I want to achieve. I also want to be a good husband. I want to be present. I want to be active. I want to be doing things. I want them to see that, yes, dad does work hard and sometimes works at night and on weekends, but at the same time, dad prioritizes time for family. That's my why. I do everything for my family to be successful, to provide for them. And there's a lot of different ways you could crystallize that. But I can also tell you that my health is very, very important because of the health scare that I've had. And so I prioritize exercise 5 days a week. So in there, what do I want to achieve? I want to achieve working out 5 days a week. I want to run another half marathon. Relationships. I want to do more date nights with my wife. I want to cultivate and I want to improve specific relationships with friends, because some can deteriorate over time just because we're too caught up in business. My mindset's very important to me. Mindset and education are very much related and combined for me personally, because I have to work on my mindset. And how I do that is I play golf, I get a massage, I take personal time for myself, because if I can't take care of myself, I can't get into the right mindset. Part of that is education. So I listen to podcasts, I read books, I listen to audiobooks. So I try to continually educate myself, because that also helps my mindset and helps my business. So all these things are very much tied in. So in business, I've got 2 revenue and profit goals. And other times I've had things where it's an add-on. I want to create this add-on to my business, this new product, this new service. This year it was publishing my book. And then I've got more tangible, smart goals. I'm going to tell you right now, I typically only have 2. Some people can afford 3. They have the capacity, they have the bandwidth, they can do more. Some people have 4, 2 personal, 2 professional. It's whatever you want, because everyone's vision guide is different. And guess what? Your vision guide may look very different this year than it did last year. And that's perfectly okay. Now that you've established your goals, we need to talk about the behaviors that you'll need to adapt or keep to achieve those goals. And for some of us, that means getting up early. Now, I've got kids, got a busy morning. I've got to get up by at least 6 o'clock. Otherwise, I'm not getting my workout in. I just don't have time. I've got to get up at probably 5:30 some days, because let's face it, you got other stuff happening going on in life. Or there's days I just can't do a workout. So I've got to wake up earlier. Number 2, I want to read 30 books a year, which I did. That means I have to stop scrolling on social media. Number 2 behavior is less aimless scrolling on social media every day. Doesn't do me any good. Well, it keeps a lot of people up at night, gives them anxiety to see all the junk and the spam out there, political stuff too. Behavior number 3 could be something like, well, I mean, you could make up your own. There could be a lot of them based on your goals. And so I don't want to fill in the blank for you, but they would be very much dependent upon your goals. It could be guesting on 12 podcasts this year. If you feel like that's going to be helpful to get you to the goal of achieving a bigger personal brand where you can make more money to speak, there's a lot of behaviors that you can identify. Now, the most fun part for me is the barriers. The barriers are, I don't have time usually. I don't have money usually. Okay, well, if you don't have time, you're not going to find it, but you need to make it. And that usually means sacrificing something, sacrificing binging that Netflix series, sacrificing scrolling aimlessly through social media, sacrificing going out at night, sacrificing going out to eat, instead making something at home. There's a lot of sacrifices or barriers that really aren't barriers. They're just BS excuses that are getting in our way, or my mom is this, or my parents aren't supportive. It's not a barrier. That's a mental thought that really no one cares. No one's going to judge you for starting a podcast or a personal brand. But write them down, because a lot of times we think it's a barrier and then we end up talking ourselves out of it and saying, you know what, it's not a barrier. It's not going to get in my way if I really want to achieve these things. And then you finish with, what would this mean to me? And if it doesn't mean anything, you're probably not as probable to achieve these things. So you have to tell yourself and tell others what it means for this to actually happen. And so put some thought into it, because that is, I would say, very important. And when you do this, when you have your vision guide completed, you're essentially creating a personalized recipe. You're creating a recipe for success, a recipe that is something I use synonymously with strategy. And I'm going to talk about this for a moment because it's in my book and it's something I'm very passionate about. So if you travel the world and you ask people, what's your recipe for chili? You're going to get a million variations, none right, none wrong. God forbid we debate the noodles, no noodles, spicy, not spicy. Is it ground beef? Is it ground chicken? Is it ground turkey? Is it brisket? Is it what? I've seen so many variations, and I love them all. I love them all. But here's the thing. You got to ask yourself, what's in the proverbial pantry? Who am I cooking for? How much time do I have? Do I have the utensils? If I'm busy, I got to just do a dump recipe where I throw it all in the crock pot and I come back at the end of the day and I got something delicious. If I got a lot of time and I want to do something more extravagant with some brisket or some pulled pork, and yes, I would do that. I'd probably need to do it on a weekend where I got more time. I'm going to have more ingredients. I need to go to the store and do more prep. But I also know my kids aren't going to eat that. So I have to ask myself, do I have the ingredients? Who am I cooking for? And only then can I craft a recipe. And if I craft that recipe and I omit one or two of the ingredients, or I skip a step, it's not going to taste right. I could throw the ground beef in the crock pot, but if I don't brown it first and get a little sear on it, it's not going to taste as good. Nobody will notice but me. And that's okay. So there are little techniques that we can adapt to help it get the right outcome. But the big thing is there's no secret sauce. The secret sauce is crafting a recipe and following the recipe. That's how you get the outcome of the vision guide. That's how you get the outcome of the strategy. And so, again, as you look at this, as you zoom out, ask yourself, what are your barriers? What are your excuses? That's ultimately what they are. Barriers are hurdles, where literally all you have to do is lift up your leg and step over it. There's nothing stopping you from getting through it or over it. It just takes a little bit of effort to identify it's there, tell yourself it's not in the way, and then step over it. Because a lot of the times the hurdles are much shorter than they appear in real life. And the one thing I want to talk about there is time, because time is just so critical here. It is the number one thing that we see in our workshops. And I'm telling you, probably 95% of the people say time. The other 5% say it and they realize that's not really an excuse, but that's what I tell myself, because they know they can change that. It's just that when you say it's time, most of the time, it's because we don't prioritize our schedules. We don't value our calendar. We don't respect our calendar. And so we need to do a better job of blocking time on our calendar for deep work. And when I say that is, Monday mornings for me are times where I sit down and I block a lot of my batch my content in Canva, create a lot of my content. I do some of my editing so I don't have to do it later in the week. And then on Wednesdays, I've got a chunk of time where I do a lot of commenting and messaging. I get caught up in the DMs. I get caught up on social media because my business is marketing. My business is social media. And I also have an assistant who helps with a lot of those things, with inboxes, with messaging, with commenting. And so you got to take time to recalibrate. And I also do that on Sundays. I take an hour every Sunday to look at my week ahead, to plan it out, to plot it out, because I need to know, how can I show up and be my best self? If I don't, I'm waking up Monday morning and I'm like, oh boy, I got this tomorrow and I got that next week. And I'm like, oh, I am sick and tired of running my life like that because it adds anxiety and stress. So you need to master and be the master of your calendar, of your schedule, of your time. Because if you do that, you will find there is more time, especially the delegation side, which, we're not going to get into today. So ultimately, when you think about this, it's up to you. It's all up to you. And as I mentioned on the mindset part, you are, for the most part, 100% control. And you have to identify what it is that you want versus I can't live without. And that vision guide will help you crystallize this. What is it that you want? And what can I not live without? I want to take my family on a cruise. Did that. I want to buy a home in Florida. Not yet there. What can I not live without? I could live without that, but it's up on top of my want list. So it feels like I can't live without it. What are my non-negotiables? I ask people when they reach out to me, like, hey, do you want to network? Well, what do you want to network on? What do you want to connect on? Do you want to sell me something? Do you want to buy my services or something else? Because a lot of times, 40% of the time, I sit on that call only to be caught off guard by a pitch. And so if you don't respect your time and respect your calendar, if you don't have non-negotiables, people will take advantage of your time. Not because they're bad people, but just because you're not protecting your time. And so what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you not willing to sacrifice? And so we learn some of these lessons the hard way over time as we get older that we really don't have to, shouldn't have to. And so it is important that when you do this, you jot down your non-negotiables, because only then can you get to that next level. And then when you do that, your operating system is totally different. You will have a new way of doing business. You have a new way of generating results that feels less stressful, has less anxiety, and you're going to feel driven by commitment. And ultimately, this is important because no one wants it more than you. No one's going to give you the vision that you have. No one's going to help you get to the goals that you have, at least not like you are. Nobody's looking out for you is something that I say a lot. No one's looking out for you like you. So you have to be in charge, in control. And it all starts right up here with your mindset, as I mentioned. So what does this all lead to? Leads to a fulfilled you. If there are no excuses, it creates fulfillment, creates success, it creates goal achievement and satisfaction. And fulfillment is a great feeling because when you have fulfillment, seldom does that come with the stress and anxiety and burden that we often live our life and run our business with. And that's just no fun. I've been there. We've all been there multiple times. And that's what has led me to burnout. It's what's led me to health issues. And that's no fun. You should be able to sleep at night. But let's get back to success. Let's get back to self-love and financial freedom, because this is about having direction. It's about getting back to clarity and purpose and productivity. And I'll tell you what, when you're there, financial freedom's the next stop on the highway. It really, really is. But so many of us, we don't have it. We're not there. We think we're there. We feel like we're close, but this is really the tool, kind of the cheat code, as my colleague says all the time, to get you there. This is our hustle framework. So if any of this stuff has resonated with you, it's something that's important to me when I talk about hustle, because hustle has become a negative word, and it has a negative connotation with many different segments, including women, that we've come to learn. Women are not a big fan of the word hustle, and I totally understand. There's been entrepreneurs like Gary Vaynerchuk and others who have suggested for the last decade plus that if you want to be successful, you've got to hustle. And their definition of hustle is very different than ours. Their definition is work 50, 60, 70 hours a week till you can't work anymore, till you can't keep your eyes open. Eat like shit, ramen noodles, pizza, takeout, whatever you can to get by, spending the least amount of money possible. And sacrifice your relationships. Don't go out, don't have friendships, don't have a social life, don't have fun. Well, I don't buy it. I don't believe that. I think that you can be successful hustling using your allotted 30 or 40 hours per week. I really believe that. You don't have to work more. In fact, I think you could work less, hustle just as much, and crush your goals. And this is what it's about. The H in hustle stands for hard work. It's about putting in the hours. It's about having a pace of play, which we got back to before with the calendar, the time management, and being the master of your schedule. Prioritizing the effort, what's important, really picking the high hanging fruit, not the low hanging fruit. The U is for unrelenting. It's about having the commitment to consistency over and over again. It's boring, but it's what wins the race, no doubt. It's about being persistent on things, specifically in sales. And then again, the prioritization of both life and business. And that's where the vision guide comes in, is the prioritization of your personal life. The S is smarter, not just harder. And because it is the 80-20, what I mentioned before, it really is focusing on the right things. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. And I know that's cliche for some people, but some of us, that means organization. It means doing it the way that you know is going to be successful. Getting away from really what doesn't work and focusing on what does work. It's also about taking chances, failing, accepting failure, and learning from it, failing forward, as we say. Not betting the farm, but taking calculated gambles and really putting yourself out there, taking a chance, but not in a way that's going to sacrifice your business or do harm. And stepping outside your comfort zone, because nothing good comes from within the comfort zone. Learning from others, it's networking, being curious, learning, diving into books. And then finally, E is enjoying the process, because you need to celebrate your victories, even the smallest of victories. You need to have fun along the way. And if you're not, you're going to forget about those little victories that all stack up, because daily victories are what create yearly victories. If you don't have daily victories or weekly victories, the end of the year is going to feel like a failure. So make sure you're highlighting those, as my dog's trying to make an appearance here. Say hi, Kenny. All right. So if you liked anything I had to say so far, if this has been fun, this has been interesting, obviously make sure you download the 2020 Vision Guide. This is a couple links, QR codes to our podcast. We've had some very successful Super Bowl athletes. We've had famous Neil Patel, the marketer, and a lot of other folks. Just an absolute wealth of knowledge. We talk marketing, personal brand strategy, sales, culture, productivity, failure. God, we've had so many great people on the show, and our YouTube channel is growing. We don't make any money from the podcast, so I promote it because it's selfishly as much for us as it is for our listeners and our clients. So check it out, please. I think you'll find some value there. And we do weave in a lot of our hustle framework and a lot of our hustle training into that. We've got a 3-part series around the Vision Guide launching on the podcast. The 3rd episode of the 6 will be out today. And so maybe something you can double down on as you work through the guide. There's a little call to action here. I've got this new thing called Snappy Video. I got a marketing audit. So if you're interested in anything I have going on, scan the QR codes, check out those resources, those new tools I've got. And then I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I always have a lot of fun with these workshops. I appreciate you, Marianne, for putting these on. And I know a little ahead of schedule, but if there's any questions, feel free to throw them out there. I'm an open book.
They can't ask. It's all on Facebook. So if you want to put your information on my Facebook page underneath the live, that's great. Or if you want to share the live on your Facebook, that's also great. If you could stop sharing, that would be great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris. As always, amazing. And yes, we are fully behind schedule as usual. That's all good.